Hello there, everybody. Finally, we have actual nice day outside. We have gotten a little bit of snow and we actually have sunshine outside. So I thought it was a good idea to take advantage of the bright light and shoot the final records in my series where I show my jazz records on vinyl. The final part is all about the records that I haven't been listening to yet, so I can't comment that much on what they sounds like, more than if I listen to a quick peek of it. I guess we all have our share of records that we haven't been had the time to listen to yet. For me, I guess it's closer to grab the records that I bought recently and listen to those in first hand, and then the one that's been laying for a while tend to be a little bit forgotten. But I feel like I'm beginning to be pretty good in grabbing the older unlistened records in the shelf actually. So hopefully I will go through these one day. Pretty good time to put in new ones, I guess. But these unlistened records are also in different kind of genres, even though they aren't just as many, of course, as the one I have listened to. Thank good for that. Here is a big stack of records that I haven't been listening to yet, but are still a part of the jazz collection, at least for now. If they should for some reason be really horrible, maybe then that could change and they can be culled away. But for now, these are a part of my collection, but I haven't yet been able to listen to yet. Starting with big band and this box set with Count Basie and his orchestra, 54 to 52, featuring Lester Young. These contains some records that I previously actually had, most of them, on a single vinyl. But now had them in a box form, so I've to spare places I actually got rid of the single vinyl versions and focused to have them on this box set. And this one I've showed numerous times. This is the most worn out record I have. It was like that when I bought it, but I couldn't resist, even though it's the box itself looks like hell. The records are actually a whole lot better, and it's Jazz at the Philharmonic, a whole box with Jazz at the Philharmonic, and I couldn't resist it, even though it looks like this. Gene Krupa and his orchestra, drum boogie. Gene Krupa, more Gene Krupa on Jazz Anthology. We have Glenn Miller and his orchestra. As I said before, I only buy Glenn Miller if it is live and doesn't contain those ordinary, worn out dance tracks like In the Mood and Chattanooga Choo-Choo and Pennsylvania and so on. This is Chesterfield Broadcasts, radio broadcasts, and we have complete Sunset Serenade program from Café Rouge with Glenn Miller. We have Thad Jones and Mel Lewis and Umo. And Umo is a Finnish band, so this is USA, American jazz and Finnish jazz in a wonderful collaboration from 1977, recorded in Helsinki. Claude Thornhill and his orchestra, bought at Record Mania in Stockholm once. Jack McDuff and his orchestra with big band of Benny Golson, so it's hammered organ with orchestra. This is one of these great legendary years, but unlike the other ones that I have, this is a single release.
Swing in Sweden, Roy Eldridge and Teddy Wilson with Swedish musicians. Dance Bands in USA. Dance Bands USA from 1925 to 35 with these bands. Kings of Swing, a normal compilation series, which I normally don't buy that much of, but it contains some a lot of songs, a lot of tracks that I didn't have before. So why not keep it then? Same goes with this Kings of Swing release. We have Open House, Lionel Hampton, bought in Stockholm back in 2006. More Lionel Hampton, Best Records, another one of these great RCA black and white series. Woody Herman and the Herd, Blowing Up a Storm. Woody Herman and his orchestra, uncollected, previously unheard release material, 1937. More Woody Herman, really nice cover. Swing Goes On. We have here, these are 50s recording. And Woody Herman and 25th anniversary, 1963. I really don't think that these Jazz Masters Mercury series covers are really all that nice looking. It looks like an inner sleeve, even though it is a normal cover sleeve. So I don't know why they actually didn't do something more with this. It's a dreadfully boring sleeve. Hopefully better music though. Woody Herman, the Third Herd. And Jack Jenny, we're talking more literally unknown big band music from names that didn't become all that famous, like for example Harry James and his orchestra in this Jazz or Giants of Jazz release. Quincy in Rio, Quincy Jones and his orchestra. Quincy Jones playing bossa nova, standards and samba. Stan Kenton and his orchestra. This was actually the first Stan Kenton album I ever bought, which was pretty. It's only I think it's 3-4 years old. Sarah Vaughan, After Hours at the London House, and really looks very interesting. Duke Ellington, the London Concerts, double LP set. Ellington, the pianist, which is actually as unusual as it sounds like. This is Duke Ellington solo or with the piano trio. It is with trio, sorry, not solo, but with a trio. But it's still yet very unusual with Duke Ellington in these smaller sections. A message from Maynard Ferguson. We have Ella Fitzgerald and her orchestra, which is radio releases, radio recordings. Benny Goodman in 1945, sextet, quintet, trio. Not all that ordinary, unusual recordings. So I think I keep it because it's great. They have great songs. But when it comes to, I may have them on other albums also, most likely. So I'm not sure how long this will be in the collection. If I need the space, that is. From the series Alternate on Fantastic Nostalgia, we have 15 unissued tracks by Benny Goodman and his orchestra. The Earl, Volume 5. We have Volume 11, I Got Rhythm. And I have Volume 3, Frenzy. More Benny Goodman in a series called Performance Recordings, Volume 3, all from 37 and 38. Volume 3, Volume 2, Volume 1. Swing, 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 Benny Goodman. The new Benny Goodman Sextet. And these are actually 50s Benny Goodman recordings. Not often you find actually 50s small bands recordings with Benny Goodman. I think it's time to start listening to Benny Goodman soon, because they are. I have so many Benny Goodman actually that it's starting to get ridiculous. Live and Rare, Benny Goodman. It isn't that rare as it seems. I think it's rare with the standard, with this country standard that the record is released on. It's actually a Bulgarian release, and I think maybe comparing to that, it might be pretty rare. But you see ACD Current, Soft Winds, King Porter Stomp, not all that unusual. So I keep this one. I bought it mainly because it was so unusual. Release actually. Benny Goodman in Moscow, live recording with 2 LP set. Basie at Birdland, recorded live at Jazz Corner of the World. This is these musicians. This is interesting. Basie's Beatle Bag, Count Basie and his orchestra. Count Basie plays Beatle tracks in jazz arrangements. Listen to quick peeks for those who are interested. It's fun to have. I'm going to keep it because it's so unusual to have, but it sounds sometimes more odd and funny than actually fantastic jazz, to be honest, but it's really fun to have. Basie, Getz and Vaughan live at Birdland. And Blues by Basie 1942. And Basie and Mills Brothers, the Board of Directors Annual Report. Count Basie Essential in these great CBS Jazz Masterpiece releases. The Bosses, Count Basie and Joe Turner. High Voltage, Count Basie. Kansas City Suite, Count Basie and his orchestra, music of Benny Carter, bought in Stockholm. Les Brown and his orchestra, 1946. And Duke Ellington and Mary Poppins plays the original motion picture soundtrack of Mary Poppins. Bought because it sounded very interesting. Listen to quick picks and it actually sounds really, really great. Jazz arrangements of the classic musical, or the classic movie, sorry, the classic movie. Duke in Harlem. This is Duke Ellington that I like really much. The early Duke Ellington from his days at the Cotton Club. And finally, Duke 1940, live at the Crystal Ballroom. Starting various swing section with Lionel Hampton, Gene Krupa and Teddy Wilson in a Verve release with the trio. We have Pete Johnson, Master of Blues and Boogie Woogie. It's piano. Smooth Jazz with Joe Jones Group and Harry Edison. We have Lester Young in a jazz, part of the Jazz History series from Verve, double LP set. More Lester Young. We have Lester Young live, Apollo concert in Harlem, and Jamming the Blues soundtrack, released on Jazz Anthology. Lester Young press in Europe, live recording. Speaking of Europe, Swing in Europe. This is a double LP set, German release, with with swing bands from 1936 to 42 from Europe, which is very interesting because most of these recordings actually are German bands with some Swedish and there are I think Orchestre Food Country is a French band, but it's not that much various European bands. It's focused on only a few. But Arne Hulfers here is Swedish, and we have Swedish Dance Quintet, which means Swedish Dance Quintet. So you can say Sweden, France, and Germany are represented here. But it's a really nice thing to have if you like me like how to listen to how swing jazz sounded like in the real golden days in other countries than the one that are most connected with jazz. Roy Eldridge and Count Basie, 1957 and 1954, Americans in Sweden. It's live concerts from Sweden during the 50s. One of these early dance music records that I found in Stockholm years ago. Roy Fox and his band, Volume 2 and Volume 1, featuring Al Bowley, dance music in the 30s. A couple of Benny Goodmans, Volume 6, Fletcher Henderson arrangements on RCA's Great Black and White series. And we have on CBS, original Benny Goodman Trio and Quartet in concert, 1937 and 38. The album set live small bands, which isn't all that ordinary to find. Normally you can find trio and quartet, but not only the trio and quartet live. So this is very interesting to have. The Hawk, Coleman Hawkins with 30s and 40s recordings. Buddy DeFranco and Oscar Peterson play George Gershwin. We have Fletcher Henderson, Swing the Things. Coming to some early big band now. Studies in Frustration, the Fletcher Henderson story. Some 20s recordings, we're talking early jazz. The Band Goes to Town, Red Norvo Sextet and Red Mackenzie, Riley Farley Onyx Club Boys, 1935. What fantastic names they had back then. We're not talking Backstreet Boys or something like that. We're talking the Riley Farley Onyx Club Boys. Then we go to Bop, Charlie Parker Jam Session. Some of you might remember that I showed this when I bought it. It is a Verve release. A little strange that they're calling it Parker Jam Session because Charlie Parker himself isn't on that much tracks actually, but it's good name to sell the record with. But it is really interesting record to have nonetheless. The Verve years, Charlie Parker, 52 to 54, double album set. Then we have Bird the Savoy recordings, on Savoy of course. Rich versus Roach, Buddy Rich versus Max Roach, a drummer feud on Mercury, Jazzmaster. Bob Brookmeyer and Friends, Stan Getz, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Gary Burton and Elvin Jones. We have a sleeve that needs to be glued, but historical performances, Clifford Brown, and it is his Paris recordings that I have on another record also. We have Clifford Brown, more Clifford Brown, the first and last recorded performances of one of the greatest soloists in history of jazz. Miles Davis at Carnegie Hall, legendary performances of May 19th, 1961. Portrait of Art Farmer. Nika's Temple, with these graced musicians, among them G.G. Grice, Thelonious Monk, Art Blakey, we have Art Farmer, Horace Silver, Oscar Pettifern, you name it. Savoy Musidisc. Scott Hamilton, close up. The Jazz Tet, and Art Farmer and Benny Golson. Whose idea was it to put black letters on top of gray background and black background? I can't see a thing what it says right here. But it is 1960s recorded on Argo. And we have this prestige release of Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker, Mulligan and Baker. Natural 7, Al Coon on RCA Victor. And Zoot Sims and Zoot Case with Art Blakey on Lewis Al Coon. And I gotta say, I actually think it's pretty cool cover sleeve. Sonny Stitt plays arrangement from the pen of Quincy Jones. And we have Jazz Samba Encore with Stan Getz and Louis Bonfa. Hope to find the original ones. K and JJ, K Winding and JJ Johnson on London, and this not too good sleeve. But interesting music anyway. Dick Katz at the piano. Charlie Parker with orchestra here. One Night in Washington. Swedish. This is records from the Metronome record series, The Legendary Years, which features American musicians in Swedish, recording with Swedish musicians. So here is plenty of soul. These are really, really nice and great double LP set series. Some really nice stuff here. Dear Old Stockholm. We have Lars Gullin, a special double LP set, and Swedish Jazz from 49 to 56. This is really, really nice double LP set series. Let's Dance on Broadway. This is Harry Arnold and music from 6 musicals that he had turned into jazz arrangements. And you can see here we have from Can Can, Pajama Game, Showboat, South Pacific, and You Get Your Gun, Guys and Dolls. More Harry Arnold. This is a double LP set, Big Band Classic 57-58. Tore Erling and Orchestra with vocalists Britt Inger Dreilich and Stig Gabrielsson. Play a Simple Melody. Swedish dancing music. We have Tore Svanerud with Friends, which means I think small band swing. This is a record you can see here and there in Swedish street stores. Yes, it's small band swing with some of the greats, Arne Domnerus and so on. Monica Zetterlund, one of my favorite singers, with a very late album from 1989, a little more modern productions, and so, even though she has been doing some rearrangement also from old classics. Seymour Östervall's Orchester, which was one of the most popular swing bands in Sweden during the 40s. Nostalgotech. Some of you might remember that I showed this in one of my earliest vinyl CD updates. Swinging in Sweden, which is early Swedish swing with, which is very interesting that they're showing pictures of American musicians, even though neither of them are here actually. It's a compilation. Oh, here's Stockholm, Sweden. Another one of these fantastic. Put them with the others maybe. So I have 5 of them. Piano. Errol Garner. Intimate piano improvisation by the great Errol Garner. Early Errol. Errol Garner. Errol Garner. Errol Garner, Dream Street, Earl Hines, Life with Father. We have Hank Jones, Quartet Quintet. May not look all that great in the sleeve, but the record itself looks really great, so I couldn't resist it. Modern Jazz Quartet and the Oscar Peterson Trio at the Opera House. We're coming to Oscar Peterson part. For those of you who thought that I had a great deal of Oscar Peterson album in the previous video, here comes more. Oscar Peterson plays My Fair Lady, and we have Oscar Peterson on clavichord of all instruments, not piano but clavichord, and Joe Pass on guitar playing Porgy and Bess. So, some say that this was actually more experimental than good, but I have listened to quick peeks of it, and it actually sounds not too bad. It sounds really interesting and really actually great. We have London concert with Oscar Peterson and Louis Bellson and John Hurd, Royal Festival Hall, 1978, on Pablo. Double album set. Oscar Peterson Trio +1, Clark Terry. Oscar Peterson and Milt Jackson, Very Tall, bought in Gothenburg. Walking the Line with Oscar Peterson Trio on MPS, German label. Leaving Oscar Peterson, well no, not quite, sorry, my bad. Stan Getz and Oscar Peterson Trio on Verve. Oscar Peterson on Tip. Oscar Peterson Trio, Tristeza. On piano, MPS. And it is Oscar Peterson Trio. I think I better start listening to Oscar Peterson soon. Oscar Peterson, Roy Brown, Milt Jackson, Roy Haynes. Reunion Blues. Affinity, the Oscar Peterson Trio. The Oscar Peterson 4, if you could see me now. I know, maybe I should start listening more to Oscar Peterson right now, sort of dig there, start there. Oscar Peterson, Samba Sensitive. Now, can we leave Oscar Peterson? The Art of Mary Lou Williams, 10-inch on Concert Hall Society. Concert Hall normally isn't a label that I do like very much, because normally all this, it sounds, the recording sounds very, very cheap actually. But when it is with Wendell Marshall and Mary Lou Williams, and it's Mary Lou Williams in trio form, who can resist? Bud Powell in concert. And Bud Powell and Charlie Mingus and Max Roach, Bud Powell Trio. And another Art Tatum in concert. And this is various records that I haven't listened to yet, albums that are underneath the record player. You can say that they are the records I have bought from a year and a little bit backwards, and that right now are the closest to be listened to, but hopefully I will not take it in. I will not forget the one in the shelf either. Henderson Homecoming. Rex Stewart leads the Fletcher Henderson alumni. This is Rex Stewart and other old Fletcher Henderson musicians who have reunited together to play Fletcher Henderson music without Fletcher Henderson. Art Farmer, Modern Art. Gene Ammons, the Gene Ammons Story, 78 era. Double LP set, released on Prestige. U.B. Blake and his orchestra. Here we're talking interesting stuff, because this is, say, early 30s jazz from lesser known band leaders. Stuff that I really like to find, those little odder releases of old jazz. Les Brown in Town. Louis Armstrong and Esquire All Star. This is a mysterious record, because you might remember that I showed in previous parts Esquire live live recording from Metropolitan Opera House, and this is the same some of the same musicians, but I didn't recognize most of the songs, so I don't know, and it's from the same date actually. Really mysterious release. This is Swedish pianist Charlie Norman and Garner Hemväft. We have this 10-inch Harry James and Rosemary Clooney, Over the Rainbow, that I picked for free once. Al Coon and Sue Sims Quintet, You and Me, bought in Gothenburg, Uppsala I think. No, sorry, Stockholm. Toots and Sivuca, Belgian harmonica player, guitar player, to Stielemans, along with Brazilian accordion player Sivuca. And it's recorded in Sweden actually. Fats Waller, Young Fats at the organ, bought in Gothenburg. Alice Bapp, Swedish singing queen, and Paris Orkestern and Estrads Elitorkestrar. Premier Swedish bands with a premier Swedish singer. Hoagie sings Hoagie Carmichael with the Pacific Jazzmen, and it's Johnny Mandel arranged. And I listened to quick peeks of it and it sounded really, really great. And more Hoagie Carmichael. Hoagie RCA release. Bought in Stockholm the last time I was there. Art Blakey Big Band featuring John Coltrane. We have Father Earl Hines, another Monday date on Prestige, the album LP set. This is Earl Hines and Roy Eldridge together, with guest star Coleman Hawkins. 60s recording. We have Dizzy Gillespie, Double Six of Paris. The Double Six of Paris is a French vocal group, along with Dizzy Gillespie and his band, recorded in France. So this is extremely interesting. Dizzy Gillespie at Newport, Verve release. And we have blue saxophones, Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster together, with Oscar Peterson at piano. Recorded in 57. Now playing Errol Garner, Night at the Movies. Errol Garner Campus Concert. Singers Unlimited a cappella 2. Benny Goodman Swings Again, live at the West Coast. Fabulous Lionel Hampton and his All Stars. Some might remember that I found this at this gigantic flea market that was in that big hall, and I got it for free. Lionel Hampton, complete 1953 Paris session. Double LP set. Gene Krupa with Charlie Shavers, Teddy Wilson and Eddie Davis on Verve. Have Bengt Hallberg plays old favorites, the Hallberg Touch, Swedish piano player. Vic Spiderbeck and Frankie Trambauer's orchestra, Bricks and Tram from 1927. More Bengt Hallberg with older recordings this time. 2 releases on classic jazz at Milestone. Jelly Roll Morton, 1 record with orchestra, 1 with piano solos. 1923 and 24, double LP set. Both of these are bought at Record Mania in Stockholm. And Bix Beiderbecke and the Chicago Cornets, double LP set. Art Blakey and the Le Jazz Messengers, Au Club Saint-Germain, French recordings with Art Blakey and the Messengers. Teddy Wilson and his trio. Frank Sinatra, LA is My Lady with Quincy Jones Orchestra. Not that big fan of Frank Sinatra, but if he sings with Quincy Jones Orchestra, of course I gotta have it. Modern Jazz Quartet, guest star Laurindo Almeida. I'm playing various Latin and Brazilian music. Newport Suite with Maynard Ferguson. And finally, Billy Eckstine and original 1940 to 45 recordings. Whew. Transporting records back and forth is a hard job to do. These were my jazz records on vinyl. If there are any interest of seeing my jazz records on CD also, you might write it in a comment section or something like that. It took a couple of episodes to go through it, and I don't think that anyone who's denying that I love jazz very, very much. So hopefully you have enjoyed these episodes, this series of jazz records on vinyl, and that you have maybe even gotten a tip of stuff that you want to find. So until next time, I hope that everyone have a real nice time in the autumn or winter, what you would like to call this. So take care and so long.